For my AS Media Studies final project, I chose to create a magazine because it felt like the most accessible and engaging medium for me to explore my ideas. Unlike other formats, a magazine allowed me to combine visual storytelling, typography, and a written content in a way that felt natural and creatively fulfilling. While I initially thought it might be simpler, I quickly realized the magazine come with their own set of codes and conventions, like masthead placement, cover lines, and consistent layouts that need to be followed to make it feel authentic. However, I saw this as an opportunity to challenge some of these conventions using a brutalist design aesthetic to subvert expectations and create something raw and impactful. This project became more than just an assignment. It became a platform to discuss themes of identity, purpose, and modern masculinity in a visually compelling way. During my research phase, I discovered that my magazine concept aligned closely with the lifestyle and self improvement genre as it focused on themes of masculinity, purpose, and personal growth. To ensure my magazine felt authentic, I studied conventions from established publications like Esquire, Men's Health, and GQ. These magazines typically use clean layouts, polished typography, and aspirational imagery to appeal to their audience. However, while their conventions provide a usual framework, their sleek, commercial aesthetic didn't fully match the raw, unfiltered tone I wanted to achieve. Instead, I decided to challenge certain norms to create a brutalist inspired design, one that felt more confrontational and unconventional, mirroring the magazine's themes of defiance and self discovery. For the masthead, I adhered to the standard conventions of placing it at the top center of the cover, ensuring immediate brand recognition, a technique commonly seen in magazines like Esquire and GQ. I also used a white color scheme, a choice sometimes employed by Esquire for a minimalistic look. The font, Akira Expanded, was sleek and modern, similar to GQ's master typography. However, I deliberately challenged this convention by applying a Gaussian blur and a smudge tool to distort the text slightly. This effect disrupted the usual polished appearance, signaling that the Purposeful Man is not a traditional lifestyle magazine, but something more disruptive and introspective. The cover lines positioned below the central image followed standard placement conventions. However, I deviated from the norm by using Broken Detroit, a gritty, uneven font for the main article title, reinforcing the magazine's rebellious tone. The barcode was kept standard, but the parental advisory label was used symbolically rather than literally, hinting the mature, thought provoking nature of the content rather than explicit material. The central image was where I most aggressively challenged conventions. Instead of a single polished portrait common in Men's Health or GQ, I featured three fragmented faces arranged in a rectangular grid, each partially obscured. The heavy grain effect and black negative space further defied expectations, as most magazines use bright, airy backgrounds to keep the focus on the subject. While Esquire and GQ occasionally use black and white photography, the addition of distortion and high contrast grain made my design feel raw and unsettling, aligning with the magazine's brutalist ethos. The content page of The Purposeful Man adheres to several traditional magazine conventions while infusing them with a brutalist twist. The headings contents follow the standard placement at the top left, ensuring immediate readability, a layout commonly seen in mainstream magazines like GQ and Esquire. While the positioning is conventional, the font choice, Broken Detroit, deviates from the usual clean sans serif and serif fonts, introducing a raw, distressed aesthetic purely for stylistic impact rather than function. The subheading example, cover stories, and features and body text maintain a clean generic font like Oswald and Times New Roman to ensure legibility, aligning with the traditional magazine layouts. However, the page numbers break from conventions by using November, a jagged, uneven font that contrasts sharply with the otherwise structured typography, reinforcing the magazine's disruptive tone. Where the content page truly diverges from tradition is in its visual design and atmosphere. Unlike conventional magazines, which often feature bright, lively content pages with colorful section dividers and airbrushed imagery, the Purposeful Man opts for a dark, void like background, creating a stark and somber mood. The images are arranged in a rigid grid pattern, but their content raw, high contrast portraits of masked or animated figures challenges the polished aspirational photography typical of lifestyle magazines. Each image sits on a grainy white background with horizontal grain, further emphasizing the brutalist aesthetic. Additionally, the inclusion of wireframe overlay, while primarily serving a design purpose rather than a symbolic one, enhances the mechanical, industrial feel of the page. This deliberate rejection of conventional warmth and polish reinforces the magazine's themes of unfiltered masculinity and introspective struggle. setting it apart from its glossy counterparts. The double spread page of The Purposeful Man adheres to several key magazine conventions while maintaining its brutalist identity. The layout employs a column grid pattern, a standard technique used in traditional magazines to ensure readability and visual harmony. The subheadings and body text utilize clean, easily legible fonts, following conventional typographic hierarchy to guide the reader smoothly through the content. The main heading is large and bold, a typical feature in magazines to immediately capture attention. Additionally, the image dominates the spread, a common practice in editorial design to create visual impact, and use of white negative space around the text ensures clarity and balance, a technique used frequently seen in a publication like Esquire and GQ. Despite following structural norms, the double spread subverts expectations in striking ways. The heading font, Brogan Detroit, defies conventional magazines typography, which usually favors sleek, polished typefaces. Instead, distressed, uneven letterforms inject a raw, rebellious energy that aligns with the magazine's theme. While the image remains the focal point, it diverges from traditional glossy portrayal through heavy grain and depth effects, giving the subject a textured, almost weathered appearance, far removed from the airbrushed perfection of mainstream lifestyle magazines. The white negative space through conventional in placement feel more intentional and stark here, amplifying the spread's minimalist brutality. Together, these choices transformed the double spread from a passive layout into a deliberate statement, blending familiarity with avant garde disruption. The Purposeful Man confronts a critical paradox of modern masculinity. While society increasingly demands that men embrace vulnerability, true personal growth often requires stoic discipline and emotional resilience. This contradiction creates an identity crisis. Men are told to open up, but are simultaneously judged for showing weakness, leaving many trapped between expectations and authenticity. The magazine visualizes this struggle through three powerful archetypes: the white masked man, representing those who perform vulnerability to meet social expectations; the motorcycle helmet wearer symbolizes the protective armor of discipline men need to achieve purpose; and the baklava clad figure embodies the raw, unfiltered self that society rarely permits men to reveal. These visual metaphors are reinforced by the magazine's stark black and white palette, symbolizing the binary pressure men face. Grainy, high contrast photography mirroring the societal friction, and deliberately distressed typography representing fractured identities. Even the parental advisory label serves as commentary suggesting that authentic male expression has become somehow explicit or taboo in modern discourse. In conclusion, at its core, The Purposeful Man exposes how modern masculinity has become a performance, where men hide their true selves behind whatever mask the current social moment demands. The magazine doesn't just document this guy, it offers an alternative path, one where strength comes not from performing vulnerability or rigid stoicism alone, but from the disciplined pursuit of authentic purpose.